And welcome back to a short birthday request from Mohawk the Half-Breed the Shredder, who asked the question, who will win in a fight? Kaiba or Duel in this case? Who wins? Kaiba with his best deck with Obelisk versus Zane with Cyber Dragon. Now keep in mind that Zane still used Cyber Dragon while using the Cyber Dark archetype, so that's not we can still use the Cyber Dark Zane as well. Kaiser Zane, if you will. But the question is, who would win in a duel here? Now, if we are looking at Kaiba with Obelisk in Battle City, there's actually no question who wins that. It's Zane, because the GX era just was just far more advanced back then. Let me rephrase that sentence. The GX era was not very far removed from the Duel Monsters era, the Battle City, Waking the Dragons, or all that stuff. But it was far enough that moves like Cyber End Dragon with Power Bond and then limited removal all existed in one. And Zane literally said he designed his deck so his Cyber Dragons were never gone permanently. He didn't waste any cards in his deck. Whereas in Battle City, which is what we're talking about right now, which is when Kaiba lasted Obelisk, he was using things like Gadget Soldier, and he still had, as far as I know, Judgment in his hand. He had Dragon Seeker, I believe it was. He still used Soggy the Dark Clown, if I'm not mistaken, for his Crush card. He's kind of had good cards in his deck, like Ring of Destruction, the Blue Eyes combos, obviously. But he also had just like dead cards like Fluted Summoning Dragon. Unless you got Lord of D and Dragons in your hand, that's a dead card in your hand. So it's really, whereas Zane and GX, you literally could just bring out Fusion, because that was the Fusion era of Yu-Gi-Oh! While Fusion existed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Prior, that was the main gimmick, was Fusion. Be it Contact Fusion, Normal Fusion, whatever. Then in 5Ds, it became Synchro. Fusion was still around. In Zexal, it was XZs. All the other two, actually, I don't think you see Synchro in XZs, but you do see Fusion. Then in Arc 5, it's Pendulum is the new gimmick, but you do actually get all of them showing up at some point. And then you get Link, which I do not like Link. Link, I think, is what broke the game. It really is what broke the meta state. I haven't been on Master Duel in forever, and it's just that, and like every archetype has ramp. Every single archetype has ramp. And then you have one-turn combos that aren't banned at all. It's just, half the time I felt like I was playing against a bot. Every time I saw the Utopia, like whatever the Gold Dragon was, then the Mystic Walk, and then like that. Every time I saw that, I'm like, this is a bot. This has to be a bot. Because it's the same damn thing every freaking time. They go first and they kill you on the immediate first turn. It's just, not only is it not fun, it should be banned. Like, it should just be a banned combo. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, if we're looking at Kaiba with Obelisk in that era, Zane's going to win that. Even without the Cyber Dark stuff, Zane's going to win that. Now, if we're being fair to Kaiba, then you might be saying, well, wait. Kaiba Man also had Kaiba's deck. Yeah, but Kaiba Man also had Kaiba Man, the card in there, which Kaiba didn't have in Battle City. Now, if we're assuming that is a direct version of Kaiba's deck, a direct copy of it, well, okay. If we go by the idea of Kaiba Man with Obelisk in there, that would be trickier, I grant you. But Zane, because Zane deals with machines, and machines have more unique ways of pumping stuff up, again, he can literally summon it not just with polymerization, but with Power Bond as well. That means he can literally bring it out with 8 grand. Not to mention limited removal on there as well, and Battle Fusion. Kaiba's Ultimate Dragon is larger than Cyber End Dragon. The question would just become then, who ends up bringing it out more often than not? Kaiba can bring his Blue Eyes out, no problem, with Paladin of White Dragon. And he can do that in one go. But he can't attack with Paladin of Dragon there. based on how often we saw Zane was able and how easily he was able to bring out the Cyber End Dragon, and his Cyber Dragons are just easier to get out in general anyway. Yeah, they're 5-star monsters, but they can be special summoned if you have nothing on the field and your opponent has something. Not to mention, he's got Cyber Laser Dragon, Cyber Barrel Dragon in the deck, which are harder to bring out, yes, but there's still options. Plus, he's also got Cyber Twin Dragon in there. He also has Chimera Tech Dragon, Chimera Tech, I believe it's like Chimera Tech Over Dragon or something like that. A couple other ones as well. So it's one of those things where it's not unreasonable to think Kaiba could win, even with Obelisk, but that Zane would most likely win. And again, this is just how, because of the game had advanced at that point. So there were easier, quicker ways to get things out. Decks were designed with a different motive behind them. Now, that said, if we're giving Kaiba his Dark Side of Dimension deck, which not only has Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and in this case, we'd add Obelisk in there to be fair, but also has things like Assault Wyvern, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Blue Eyes Ultimate, Blue Eyes Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, which can make multiple attacks and has a counter to it, Chaos Max Dragon, White Eyes Deep Dragon. Because now Kaiba is literally just constantly being able to spam out massively powerful effect monsters. That becomes a bit more tricky. Assault Wyvern, if I remember correctly. One second here. Let's see. Assault Wyvern. I want to be sure what that does, because we don't know everything in Kaiba's deck in Dark Side of Dimensions. Assault Wyvern Yu-Gi-Oh! What does this thing do again? Assault Wyvern. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you contribute this card, special summon one dragon type monster from your hand. Okay. So yeah, Kaiba would certainly have to, it's 1800, so Kaiba would certainly have to kill a monster on Zane's side of the field first, and the Cyber Dragons aren't really capable, you're not capable of doing that with that, but it still wouldn't be impossible. I'd say Kaiba would have his best shot with the Dark Side of Dimensions deck, definitely. That's where he would get the most wins, because it's the most, it would be the most caught up deck to GX in terms of how it functions. That said, I would still lean towards Zane, because literally when we saw like the duel between him and Jane, the second duel, the attack power of the monsters got into the 20,000s. Never once in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters proper did any monster ever get that high, save for Exodia, the Great Leviathan, and Obelisk, if you want to get technical. But that was only in the movie, really. So that's not infinite, that's just 4,000 damage. So really, only Exodia and the Great Leviathan have, or actually not the Great Leviathan, that reptile monster he summoned. And then the Orichalcos, whatever it was. The three monsters in one that made up one. Those are the only monsters in Duel Monster history, to the best of me remembering, that are that powerful, and only through technicalities. Even the Winged Dragon Raw with its anime effect, which, by the way, I've never understood why they never decided to give it its anime effect. Like, you have to use magic cards to give it the anime effect of power toughness equal the monsters on your side of the field. Never understood why they didn't do that. The real Winged Dragon Raw is good for a finisher if you can get it to work, but otherwise you're down to 100 life. Like, why the hell would anyone want to do that? Obelisk and Slifer are far more usable. But I mean, they all have decent support to them too, so what do I know? So yeah, again, it's just a matter of the GX era of Duel Monsters got the levels of power that were a bit absurd by the Duel Monster levels. Now, that being said, I'm not including things like the fact that Kaiba has things like Negate Attack under his belt, Attack Guidance Armor, Ring of Destruction. It's not to say Kaiba couldn't win. I'm not saying that. I'd even argue Kaiba probably is the better duelist, because he's probably, even though he's got a lot of pride, he's probably tempered out a little bit in 10 years between the original series and GX. which is 10 years. I believe we know that for a fact. And so Kaiba's only in his mid-20s, which is ridiculous. Not to only you Australian businessman who haven't aged a day. He's only in his 20s. What? Why would he have aged? Now, mind you, he's drawn like a 20-year-old. So 20-plus-year-old. So why they only say he's in his teens, I have no freaking clue. But with that said, yeah, I think you'd have to give, if you're giving Kaiba Obelisk, Dark Side Dimension deck is the best case scenario, but it's not a guarantee. So I don't know. I mean, there's also, you could also go his Pyramid of Light deck where he had Pet and the Dark Clown. Now, okay, there is one scenario I'm not factoring in here, and that is Crush Card Virus. Now, mind you, Crush Card works very different in the real world than it does in the anime. But if we're going by the anime, which is what we're doing here, and he's able to get Crush Card Virus off, that would F Zane up hard, because not only does Crush Card put all of his 1500 attack or greater monsters in the graveyard, or basically, and you can't summon them again. You can't bring them back from play, or from remove from play. You can't bring them back from the grave. You can't like Monster Reborn. You can't do anything with them, because that's an anime effect with that. So if Kaiba's able to get a Crush Card off on Zane, Zane's in trouble. Like, straight out in trouble, because the crux of his deck is the Cyber Dragons. Now, with that said, however, he does have an out around that with his Cyber Dark Dragons, or Cyber Dark creatures. Cyber Dark Horn, Keel, and Esper all can equip monsters in the graveyard, dragon monsters, to them to increase their power. And the Cyber Dark Dragon obviously does that with a much larger monster. So, yeah, with the add, because I haven't even been considering the Cyber Dark archetype part of his deck. You add that into the fray, yeah, it doesn't look good, because he can just power wall Cyber Dark Dragon, get what the beefiest dragon he's got in the grave, and then Cyber Dark Dragon increases in power from there. So I would still go Zane. Again, I think Kaiba is the overall skill-wise better duelist, but I think Zane does have the better deck. So that's my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Happy birthday. I'll see you next time.